Hello, my name is Crystalline and I'm with Preserving Life Ministries. And today I'm going to share with you some essential knowledge on canning tools that you'll need to get started with your canning journey. A canning jar. The sizes of the canning jar range from 4 ounces to 128 ounces. Ball and Kerr are the only jars recommended for home canning. Variety of colors and shapes, and they have wide mouth and regular mouth. They can be decorated, they can be embossed, they come in all different colors. They're great. Another canning jar is called the wet canning jar, used by European home canners since 1900. They are not approved by the USDA for home canning due to the rubber is subject to failure. They are reusable, they have fragile glass lids, and they can be expensive. The canning jar also comes with a metal lid and a band. The metal is coated with a rubber seal and it's for a one-time use only. It's made in the USA, it's BPA free, and it's the only USDA recommended type of lid for home canning. The other type of lid is called the Tattler lids. They are reusable, but they do not meet USDA guidelines due to the solid rubber gasket, which does not vent well unless it's the vacuum seal. Testing has shown that these lids may lose half their vacuum over the course of a year, often within the first 6 months. Now we'll talk about the 4 common reasons for jar breakage. The first reason is impact break. Impact breaks originate at the point of impact and radiates along the side of the jar. To prevent an impact break, carefully inspect the sides, bottom, and rim of every jar for cracks before using them. Avoid banging jars on a hard surface to disperse the food. Handle your jars carefully and test new jars that may have been mishandled. Avoid the use of metal tools to remove air bubbles. The second reason for jar breakage is called thermal shock, caused by a sudden change in temperature which creates too wide of a margin between temperature of the filled jars and water in the canner. It is characterized by a crack running around the base of the lower part of the jar, sometimes extending up the side. How do we prevent this? Well, the rule of thumb is hot food, hot jar, hot canner. Place jars on the rack. Stainless steel racks work best, but in a pinch, if you don't have a rack, just use a washcloth at the bottom of the canner. That'll do. Always allow the jars to cool on a towel or rack at room temperature, away from windows, vents, and drafts. Our third reason for jar breakage is internal pressure. Internal pressure breaks originate on the side of the jar and forms a vertical crack that divides and forks into 2 fissures. How do we prevent this? Well, we provide adequate headspace in the jars for food to expand when heated. Keep heat steady during the processing and never reduce the canner under running water or lifting the pressure control before pressure drops to 0. Other reasons for jar breakage may be the canner may become dry during the canning process, or the air was exhausted from the canner at too high of a temperature, or using lower quality commercial food jars rather than jars manufactured for home canning. How do we test for a seal after we have our food in our jars? Well, we lightly press the middle of the lid with a finger or a thumb. If the lid springs up when you release your finger, it's unsealed. The second option is tap the lid with the bottom of a teaspoon. A clear ringing sound means a good seal. The third option is hold the jar at eye level and look across the lid. If the middle is raised, the jar did not seal. Now we're going to talk about some of the basic canning utensil sets. These will help you safely and easily handle hot jars and lids, fill your jars, and measure headspace and remove air bubbles. The set includes our jar funnel. And the jar funnel, place the mouth of the jar funnel into the jar to fill it without spilling. The next item is a jar lifter, which helps you to safely lift the jars and put them in and out of the canner. We also have a lid lifter that helps us to lift the lid safely without contaminating the seals. And we also have our bubble remover, and the headspace tool to help us to get the proper headspace when filling our jars. Headspace, we just talked about the proper headspace, but you may be asking, well, Crystalline, what is headspace? Well, headspace is the unfilled between the top of the food or liquid and the underside of the lid. It's essential to allow the food for expansion as the jars are heated and for the formation of a strong vacuum seal as the jars cool. Before we're measuring, you want to remove any air bubbles from the jar by running the spatula along the jar. Now we're going to talk about the different types of canners. The first canner will be the water bath canner. The water bath canner is for high acid foods. They come in stainless steel or enamel, and they also come with a rack to protect the jars from excess heat. And these can go up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the water bath canner. And inside you will see that there is the metal rack to protect the jars. Next, we'll talk about the pressure canners and the different types. They have 5 to 15 pound weights. They have a weighted gauge or dial gauge. They have a gasket or metal to metal seal. And they get up between 228 to 260 degrees Fahrenheit. One has a positive action clamping locks or screw-on lid and has a cast aluminum or spun aluminum. So the first canner we'll show you is the All-American canner. This is the All-American canner. It has the 5 to 15 gauge weight. It also has the gauge. It also has the metal to metal seal, and it is made out of the cast aluminum. The next canner we'll be showing you is the Presto canner that also comes with the 5 to 15 pound weights. It also has a gauge, but the difference is it's made of spun aluminum and it comes with a rubber gasket. Now you might be asking, what is the difference? Well, the gasket is rubber, and as we know, rubber stretches and has the potential to stretch and not seal properly. And so with the All-American, it does not have that, and there are no replaceable seals that need to be replaced. Next, we'll be moving on after the canners. We'll be showing you the steamer juicer. It's one of my favorite things. It makes canning so much easier and enjoyable. It can hold larger quantities of food. There's very little preparation, and what you do is that you can put the food inside of the steamer basket, and you put your water in the bottom container. And as that water comes to a boil, it will steam whatever you have in here. Let's say you have apples, it will steam the juice from them, and the juice will fall into this middle compartment. And you can take the juice, this tube, open it up, and the juice can flow straight into your jar. You put your lid on and you can can it in either canner of your choice. It's relatively fast, it's easy to use, and it's affordable, and it makes life a lot simpler. The food strainer is another one of my favorites. You put the food in the hopper, you crank the handle, and the strainer does all the work for you. This is great when you want to make applesauce. Some additional things that you might need in your canning kitchen. Of course, some dish towels, some drying pads. Of course, you'd like a nice apron because things may get a little messy. A hairnet and some gloves. We have a cutting board, some ladles and spoons, sharp knives, pot holders for these hot pots. There's a timer, measuring cups, of course your funnels, measuring spoons, and this ends the things that you need, and I hope that you were blessed, and thank you.